Hello everybody, welcome back. I'm Samantha.
I'm Alison.
And we are the Garcia sisters. Welcome to episode 4 of the Night Owl Chronicles. We are super excited. I'm excited. Are you, Alison?
Super excited because we still get to read
back
from the door. And we're on to chapter 4.
Yeah, we'll be reading chapter 4 today. But before I get into chapter 4, we're going to give you a recap of what happened.
Chapter 1.
Let's start all the way from chapter 1. So for those who haven't seen or read The Door yet, Alison, tell me about chapter 1 quickly.
Yeah, so chapter 1, it basically starts off, we introduce the main character, which is Josh Riley, and we find out that he's been through a very traumatic experience. It's been 6 months since there was a violent robbery or break-in where his parents were attacked and he was attacked, and he's seeing a psychiatrist called Dr. Ellen Young, and she's trying to help him move forward. And they've also moved into a new house. So they're based in Massachusetts, but they've moved from Lincoln to Sudbury, which is like kind of the next suburb over. And they moved into this new house, and although Josh Riley doesn't like it, he is willing to give it a try. But there's something about the house at the end of the chapter that he looks at it and he doesn't like it.
That's right.
Doesn't know why though.
And then on chapter 2, we introduce Amanda Wolf. There is an unsettling new student that arrives at school, and she does really bring out a really weird vibe with everybody, especially towards Josh. So Josh already immediately doesn't really like her, you could say.
Well, again, like what we said, there's something about the house that he doesn't like, but there's also something about Amanda Wolf.
Amanda Wolf.
I got my characters mixed up.
So, Amanda has come to school and she makes...
I don't know where Mary came from.
Probably on the third book, I reckon. So, Amanda Wolf, she makes Josh feel a little bit uncomfortable. And then after chapter 2, on chapter 3, we have arrived. So during the night, Josh hears something knocking at the door. And when he does go and inspect, there's just a branch that's tapping the window. He tries to convince himself, oh, it's just a branch. However, though...
I think it's like the
beginning of something.
An evil sign, basically, an ominous sign that the branch is telling him of what's to come.
Exactly.
Because, the branch knocks on the window, perfect 3 knocks, and he's convinced it's coming from the door. But he realises it's coming from a window. But I think it's almost teasing him.
Exactly. So was it really a branch or was it really a knock at the door? So that's something for the readers to probably think about, and for Josh. But we're going to get into chapter 4 now, which is titled 3 Times. Do you want to start, Alison?
Sure.
Start with the read. I'll just sit back and watch Alison.
Read a page each, as per usual. So chapter 4, titled 3 Times. The doorbell chimed 3 times. It had to be the cab driver, as he was right on time. It was exactly 7 o'clock in the morning, and I quickly slipped the remaining coffee from my Star Wars mug. I felt drained from the previous night. It was hard to fall and stay asleep. As I approached the front door and looked through the peephole, I could see the cab driver waiting patiently on the other side. He looked like an actor from the 70s. He had a black moustache and wore a puffy brown leather jacket, a flat cap, and tanned aviator glasses. I could see through the lens of his glasses how his eyes curiously travelled up and across the house. I get it. The house was big, but it was ugly. I opened the door and greeted him with a warm smile.
Hi, give us 5 minutes, I said to the cab driver. The front door seemed heavier than before. It had either gained weight somehow, or I was getting weaker. Sure, no worries, he replied, taking off his glasses as he returned to his vehicle. He was very polite, and I noticed that he had a thick accent. I looked up to the sky. It was dark grey again. Rain started to slice through the sky, tapping the cab driver's shoulders and skimming past his eyelashes, causing him to blink several times. As I closed the door, my parents were coming down the stairs. They were both bundled up in their thick coats, blush scarves and leather gloves. Peter, do you have your phone? My mother asked. Yes, Dad answered. What about the plane tickets? Are you sure you have the tickets? Honey, I have everything. Please don't worry, Dad replied. Mum did one final check in her black handbag. She had a habit of double-checking everything, which ensured nothing would go wrong. Mum looked a bit stressed. This was no vacation. It was a journey of unknown circumstances, and our final result was anyone's guess. Was my uncle going to survive the hit and run? I cursed the person who left him there. I hoped Karma had seen it, or better, I hoped there was a witness. If so, I trusted that they were. I hoped that they went to the police and reported everything. We'll call you when we get there, Mum said. She looked frazzled as she buttoned up her thick black coat.
I'll wait for you. Maybe you should have let me come, I said, suddenly torn between going and staying. No, you're in no state to come with us. Remember what Dr. Young said the first time you saw her? Yeah, I know. You can't afford any more stress. Plus, you have exams coming up. I need you to get well and do your best in school. Sorry guys, I need a cough. Sorry about that. I'll repeat. You can't afford any more stress. Plus, you have exams coming up. I need you to get well and do your best in school. Think about your future, Mum said. Time waits for no one. For some reason, her remark annoyed me. I'm not a little fragile egg that will break if you squeeze me too hard. I'm not that weak, and if that's what you think, you're wrong, I snapped. Uh-oh. Mum gave me the look. The frozen look. Had I just offended her? I needed to fix this pronto. I mean, I continued, I'm getting better. I'm not having that many nightmares, I added. She ignored my reply and continued on as if I had never said anything. I thought to myself, slow down, Josh. Don't forget that her brother's in critical condition. Show some respect. It's good for you to stay with your friends, she said. They'll give you the good company and distraction when you're not studying, but no wild parties. Got that? Got it. I don't want you to stay here by yourself, Mum said with a deep frown. Mum, I said, rolling my eyes, I'll be with my friends. You have nothing to worry about, I promise, I said, reassuring her. I managed a small smile to her liking. If anything happens, call me. Promise? I promise, I said.
You sure? She asked. You'll be the first to know, Josh reassured. Make sure you lock every window and don't answer the door to strangers, Mum said with a serious face. Her face could change in an instant. I'd seen her good face before, and by the time I meant anything, her eyes sparkled and her smile was so big all her teeth would show. Her bad face was the frozen face. She would press her lips together and her bright eyes stared at you without blinking. You never know what she was thinking about. Don't worry. I'll make sure everything is locked before I leave. I'll double check everything before I go and see Ken, I said, trying to reassure her. She had a habit of treating me like a child and forgetting how old I was. Mum and Dad could be a bit overprotective, but after what had happened, who could have blamed them? Heck, I was overprotective of myself nowadays. I grabbed Mum's bag and carried it outside to the cab driver, who took it from me. He loaded their bags into the trunk and gave my parents a goodbye hug and kiss. Mum was definitely having a hard time letting me go because she kissed my forehead 3 times and squeezed my shoulders very hard before Dad said goodbye again. It was still raining lightly as the cab driver started the car. Dad poked his head out of the back seat. Geez, he looked drained. Take care of yourself, buddy, he said as the cab driver drove off. I will, I replied with a nonchalant wave. I watched the car get smaller as it went down the street. Mum turned her head around and waved goodbye to me again through the back window.
I knew flying to Los Angeles would be hard for her, but leaving me behind would be harder. To my surprise, I saw Amanda Wolf, the new emo girl from school. "What the?" I blurted out. She was standing at the end of the street, staring at me. I lowered my arm and squinted my tired eyes in her direction. Was it really her? I rubbed my eyes and focused. It was indeed her. I didn't care for her, and there was something unsettling and grim about her presence. She was just standing there, staring at me. She looked like a statue, an old Gothic statue from centuries ago. The only thing that moved was her pitch black hair, which danced across her face. She didn't even brush the strands away. Didn't the strands tickle her skin? How annoying. The rain was gaining strength, and the cold droplets of water were now turning into blobs. But it didn't seem to faze her. Wouldn't normal girls by now, wouldn't they have run away by now? Didn't they hate wetting their precious hair? I'd seen so many girls at school freak out when it started to rain. They'd shield their hair from the rain with their textbooks and complain all day. Wait a second. Had this freak moved into the same street as me? Great. A witch in the neighbourhood. Thunder roared through the grey clouds above me, and I stood there wondering when the sun was going to make an appearance. The strong vibration of the thunder touched my chest and back. I went back inside and locked the door and inhaled deeply.
As I exhaled, I noticed how quiet the house was. It was too quiet. I looked around and saw the growing darkness even in the smallest corners. This house was just too dark. In my opinion, it was poorly designed. There was no consideration for allowing enough light from outside to shine in. The dark wooden interior created shadowy corners in every room of the house. I was going to take Mum's advice of not staying home alone, at least not for tonight. I decided to invite Chris and Ken over. I grabbed my phone from my loose back pocket and sent them both a text message to come over tonight. 5 minutes later, they both replied that they were coming over. What a relief. As much as I wanted to handle my emotions alone, I didn't want to spend the first night in solitude. My thoughts travelled back to Amanda and how she had been staring at me. Was she still standing outside in the rain? I rushed upstairs, stomping on every second step, and dashed into my room. I slowly parted the curtains to the side, but she was gone, nowhere to be seen. What a strange girl, I thought. I wonder what her story was. At least I had Chris and Ken coming over tonight. I knew we would have so much fun. It would be a good distraction for me. I was not in the mood to talk about my uncle. I didn't know whether to tell them about him or not. Now we're cutting to a scene now where Chris and Ken are over Josh's house at the moment. Do you guys want more popcorn? I asked Chris and Ken. They were both too mesmerized by the racing video game. Hello, do you want some more?
"Josh, please, this is too important," Ken cried out, wanting to beat Chris. I looked at the screen. They were both nearing the final lap. It was anyone's game now. But Chris always won. I knew how this would end. "I can't afford any more interruptions," he declared. Then suddenly, "Yes, I win again," Chris said ecstatically. "Come on, I was so close. I'll beat you one day," Ken said, looking at the screen in disbelief. Ken was so close to winning, but he lost control of his vehicle and smashed into a wall, leaving Chris to come in first place again. I suddenly heard now 3 knocks at the front door. My skin prickled all over, and I could feel blood rushing to the surface of my face. Ken quickly stood up and rushed to the door. "Shotgun, I'll get it," he said. I watched from afar as Ken opened the door without even looking through the peephole. I couldn't help but be a little bit nervous when strangers knocked. Even before the attack, I never opened the door without looking through the peephole. I felt my body relax when I heard the conversation between Ken and the pizza delivery guy. I had almost forgotten about dinner. It had taken the pizza guy forever to come, but the delicious aroma of warm melted cheese stirred my appetite. "Did you lock the door?" I asked, grabbing the pizzas from Ken. "Yep," he replied. "Are you sure?" I questioned him again. "Yeah, man, it's locked," Ken said, testing the door handle in front of me.
We're good then. We headed to the living room while Chris loaded a DVD for us to watch. Pizza. Can't say no to this, Chris said. The house became quiet again. We were all too busy devouring our pizza. The melted cheese stretched and drooped down as I took another slice from the box. I couldn't devour it fast enough. It was that good. "So," Ken said, breaking the silence, "how do you like the new house?" I momentarily stopped and looked around the living room area, trying to find something I could compliment. "It's good." "Just good?" Ken asked. "My folks like this house." "But," Ken pressed, I think it needs more colour. I mean, look around," I said. Chris observed his surroundings without saying a word. "My mum loves dark wood. You know, the old country look," I said. I had to admit that the house was unique in its own way. The only downside was that everything was too dark. For crying out loud, we weren't the Addams family. "It's old. Am I right?" Chris asks, still munching on his pizza. "It's a couple of years old, but it's been restored and maintained. Our broker mentioned something about 18th century. "Just a couple of years old? You mean ancient?" Ken said, chuckling to himself.
"I guess you're right," I said. "Do you mind, Josh?" Ken asked, wiping his hands, and taking a hold of his trusted camera. "Can I take some pictures?" "Go for it," I replied. Ken stood up and walked out of the living room. He started taking pictures of the front door, hallway, and stairs. I knew Ken would make a story behind every photo, and I could tell that he was fascinated by the fact that the house was so old. The door frame that led to the study had several flower wood carvings around it, and the floorboards were super glossy. The skirting boards also had unique patterns that reminded me of the ivy plant we had outside. Ken looked inspired as he snapped more pictures. He kept saying how impressed he was with all the woodwork done to the house. "This is such a neat house," Ken repeated as he returned to the living room. While they fixed their attention on the TV, Amanda Wolfe was at the back of my mind. I wanted to know what Chris and Ken thought about her. "So, what do you guys think of the new girl?" I asked. Chris paused the movie and looked at me unimpressed. He had been waiting all night to watch the latest Fast and Furious movie. "Can we watch the movie?" Chris asked, ignoring my question. "Come on, what do you guys really think of her?" I asked again. "You mean the weirdo?" Chris asked back with a sarcastic tone.
For a few seconds, there was silence between us. I assured that they were both thinking of an answer. The only sound I could hear was the grandfather clock ticking away. "She seems different. A bit strange. Maybe she needs time," Ken answered. He always gave people the benefit of the doubt, while Chris was more judgmental. "I'm not fond of her," Chris said, with a sarcastic tone again. "In fact, I don't like her," Chris added, curling his upper lip. He had pizza sauce smeared on his right cheek. He removed it with his index finger before sucking on it. He was a pig when he ate, yet he was the thinnest one of our group. "I think she lives on my street," Josh said. "Lucky you. Amanda can be your new best friend," Chris replied. "Something happened today," Josh said. "Did she ask you out?" Chris had a growing smile on his face. I knew he found this amusing. "No, she didn't ask me out. Something weird happened. I saw her today down my street and she wouldn't stop staring at me," Josh said. "Maybe she likes you," Chris said with a smirk. "Very funny," Josh replied. "I think people need to give her a chance. She just started at a new school and she has no friends. I think that's why she might be a bit introverted, Ken explained sympathetically before smiling. I knew he was trying hard to contain his laughter. That was the end of the Amanda Wolf conversation. I didn't want to continue talking about her, so I thought the best thing I could do was keep my distance from her.
After watching 4 movies and stuffing our faces with pizza, soda and ice cream, it was time to get some shut-eye. We all headed upstairs to my bedroom. Luckily, I had already prepared 2 blow-up mattresses for them. I was glad that Chris and Ken were here with me. It was a fun night and they were the perfect distraction. But now I was super tired. I checked my phone and saw a message from Mum saying that she and Dad had landed in Los Angeles. I thanked her for letting me know and wished them luck. I knew they were very worried about my uncle and I was worried about him too. As soon as I rested my head, I felt my entire body relax and I immediately slipped into a deep sleep. And now we're going to cut to the scene in the middle of the night when Josh wakes up. I suddenly woke up in the middle of the night. I looked around and saw my small TV on static. That's weird, I thought. I don't remember leaving the TV on. Actually, I don't even remember turning it on. Had the guy switched it on while I was asleep? I looked around for answers, but Chris and Ken were so sound asleep. I reached for the TV remote that was on my bedside table and switched it off. It was just past 3 a.m. when I checked the time. My throat felt dry like sandpaper, so I stood up to get some water. I slowly tiptoed to the bathroom, but I left the light off because I knew it would be too bright for Chris and Ken. Silver light from the moon beamed in and spread across the bathroom, allowing enough light for me to see everything. I drank 2 glasses of water, which helped soothe my throat. It had been from all the salty pizza I had eaten before.
As I walked back to my room, I heard 3 soft knocks coming from downstairs. My skin turned cold, but I quickly remembered that big stupid branch from outside. I walked around my bed and pushed the curtains aside. It was not windy at all. What was causing the low branch to move against the window? I couldn't go to sleep now. I needed to make sure that nobody was out there. I poked my head out and inspected the dark, empty hallway before me. Damn, I felt much colder now. Why was this house always so cold? It didn't matter how high the heater was, there was always a cold spot near me, always following me. I slowly walked down the hall and stopped at the stairs. Before I took the first step down, I looked to my side where there was a long rectangular window. The moon beamed white light onto my white t-shirt and anything else that could touch. Everything suddenly seemed so pale. But I had to find the source of the knocking. I had to make sure that it was the branch outside. Maybe the branch was just fragile. Maybe any slight breeze made it move on its own. Maybe. I walked down the creaking wooden steps and I felt my heart skip a beat when I heard it again. The knocking sounded more like a tapping, and it wasn't coming from the living room. It was coming from the study, which was opposite the living room. I was now facing the door, not knowing what to do. I turned my head to the right, where the living room was, and then to the left, where the study was. What the hell do I do now? Could it be another branch that's tapping the window? Josh thought.
I didn't know, so I headed to the study to investigate. I carefully pushed the curtain aside, and to my relief, I saw another tree. It was just a stupid, thin branch tapping on the window. Wait, why do we have 2 trees placed in front of the windows? I thought. Whoever planted them there must have forgotten that trees grow, and so do their branches. Get a grip, Josh. It's nothing, I whispered to myself, pressing my palm against my cold, sweaty forehead. from upstairs. I was so sure that it sounded like someone knocking on the door, but obviously my mind was playing tricks on me. Everything is good. You're safe. Everyone is safe, I reminded myself. I walked towards the stairs without making a sound, feeling somewhat better that nothing was out of the ordinary. I reached the 4th step, held my breath, and immediately turned around when I heard 3 soft knocks at the door. It was not a tapping sound, it was a sure knocking sound. Someone's knocking on the door. I swallowed hard and grasped the handrail in terror when I saw the golden door handle jiggle from side to side. It was as if someone was testing the handle to see if it was unlocked. I was paralyzed. I was frozen with fear. I was conflicted about what to do. My mind was telling me to run upstairs and wake up Chris and Ken, but my body had shut down. Beads of sweat traced down my forehead. Was my mind playing a torturous game on me? Should I call out to Chris and Ken? Had the intruders found me? Oh my God. The intruders, the attackers, they found me.
I finally reacted and quickly dashed to the front door, trying hard not to make any noise, but the floorboards were making loud creaking sounds as usual. Damn this old house. I peered into the peephole, and my scared eyes saw nothing. There was no one out there, just darkness and an empty street. I looked to the far left, to the far right, but there was no one out there. I took a firm hold of the door handle and jiggled it to make sure that it was locked. I felt my thighs shaking. It was adrenaline coursing through my body, and I wondered if this was all in my head. I remembered Dr. Young mentioning that the mind could produce odd sounds and sensations, especially after traumatic experience. I bounced back and stared at the grand door. I knew what I had heard. I hadn't imagined it. I started to feel more anxious and fearful, and I formed my hands into a tight fist. Maybe someone's playing a joke on me, I thought. I looked again through the peephole, and still there was no one out there. As I slowly relaxed my hands, I could feel them both were sweaty, and so was my hair. I didn't understand my body. I was super sweaty, and I felt so cold at the same time. I needed my pills to calm down, so I went back upstairs to my bathroom. I opened the medicine cabinet and took the small orange bottle of Valium. The instruction says to take 1 pill an hour before going to bed. I decided to take the pill later when I was sure nothing was threatening my safety. Before going to bed, I stood guard at the main window upstairs for around 2 hours to make sure there was nothing strange out there. I could even see everything from there. I watched the sleepy, dark world and waited to see something strange, something that shouldn't be there. Yet, there was nothing.
I debated with myself whether I should have said something to Chris and Ken, but I didn't know what to do. Was I embarrassed to wake them up and be wrong? I knew my pride was too strong. Maybe I was too stubborn. I swallowed 2 pills instead of 1 and finally rested my body. I could hear the rain coming down, tapping on the roof and windows. Then it started to come down hard. I kept repeating in my mind that everything was fine and concluded that what I had seen and heard had all been in my head. My body suddenly felt heavy but calm. My mind became quiet but peaceful. My breathing slowed down, steady and even. The pills were working, and I finally fell asleep. Finally.
And that concludes chapter 4. Wow, a lot has already happened in this chapter.
Yeah, a lot.
Well, we've something's definitely wrong here. Now Josh has already gone to the door. He thought it was a branch. It wasn't a branch
it's from the door.
the actual doorknob has actually turned now.
But I think the question here is what Josh is saying, because he is suffering from post-traumatic stress disorder. Is it all in his head? As Dr. Young warned him that he would probably hear and feel strange things that were probably not real. I think it's kind of his body's way of adjusting or getting through this panic. So he's concluding that it's all in his head. And he's questioning it, almost at the end questioning his sanity. And he needs medicine or medication to help calm him down.
And don't forget, he did look through the peephole and there was nothing there.
No.
So what do you think is going on? That's my question to the viewers and listeners. What do you think is really going on? Is it all in Josh's head? Or is there something really out there? I'll let you be the judge of that. Until next week, when we start to read chapter 5.
Chapter 5, yeah. Chapter 5 is called Knock Knock. So we know that from now on, things are just going to get rapidly worse for him. And he has to solve this nightmare. Is it really someone knocking on the door? Is it a prank? Or is this really just a manifestation in his head that he really needs to deal with?
And not just that, Amanda was, when Josh's parents left to go to LA, Amanda was at the end of the street staring at him.
Why was she staring at him?
Why was she there? There's a reason for everything in our world.
Absolutely. In the Night Out Chronicles world, absolutely. So, we have to also think, is she part of this as well?
Exactly.
We don't know.
So,
She's the culprit, so...
But I very much enjoyed reading that, and thank you for listening, thank you for following us. We do appreciate you all, and we love you.
Thank you.
So a big thanks to 3CR Radio and to Nikki, our producer.
Wonderful. Thank you.
Work.
She creates magic.
She does. And we'll see you next time for chapter 5.
Yeah, and remember guys, as we always say every week, follow the owl.
Follow the owl.
Bye.
Bye.